So I am on a resort Wi-Fi, and so if I skip out, I'll try to get right back in as soon as possible. That did happen, Mike. I don't know if you noticed in the last meeting, the Wi-Fi dropped here, so I had to join in with my personal hotspot. So if I bump out, I'll bump back in as soon as I can. So just letting everybody know that. Okay, today we're going to take a look at, Mike asked me to take a look at photos a little bit more in depth. And from my understanding, there's a few photographers in here, including Mike. So I got my work cut out for me. Yikes. First of all, I am Dan Wassink, as Mike said, owner, trainer, everything with danstutorials.com. I have over 30 years publishing experience. Half of that is probably in print magazine type thing, and the other half is all online. I'm also a former Apple genius. I do have some apps in the App Store, although I focus primarily on my videos now for the most part. So that's a little bit about me, and I do have over 1,800 videos on my site, danstutorials.com. I also have a little bit of a YouTube presence. I've been working on that, and I have about 250 videos on there. So you can check me out there as well. For everyone here, if you like what you see, take a look at my site and use the coupon code Suffolk, if I'm saying that right, and you'll get 50% off of any plan. And that is a recurring discount. So when it renews, you'll also get that same discount. So if you like what you see, check out my site, and don't forget to use the coupon code Suffolk. So enough about me. This is what we're going to look at here. So it's a little bit of a lengthy list. So I'm going to try to get through all of this, but I'm going to start out a little bit on the broad side. And that's my wife's phone. I can't mute her. Oh, that's our resort phone. Probably remind us for some meeting or something tomorrow. But anyway, we're going to look at, I thought I'd start out a little bit broad. My workflow to help keep my photos. I take a lot of photos. I have 30,000 photos in my library. And like here we are on holiday. And of course, I take a lot of photos. So how do you keep that? When we can just rapidly take photos. So what is I thought I'd share what my process is, because we need to whittle that down. You don't need to have 10 photos of the resort. You only want to find the best one. So I thought I'd start out broad in that aspect. Then we'll take a look at syncing, so we can get them syncing across all of our devices, all of our photos. You probably know all this, but there's a nice little trick there where you can optimize your photos, and I use that. Then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty and how we can change the order of photos and albums, create smart albums, and then go into titles, captions, keywords, how we add faces, locations, make adjustments, and things like that. And we'll end up with quick look at raw photos. If you use Apple Pro RAW, what is the difference? And I'm going to try to show you what the difference is between the two types of photos. They both have their advantages and they both have their disadvantages. So that's what we're going to look at. Let's start out with my workflow. So like I said, when you go on holiday or you're at a birthday party or anything like that, it's natural now with us where we can just take 10 photos just right in a row, and then we forget about them. And now what do? Now all of a sudden our camera roll, when we really should have 2 or 3 good photos, is all of a sudden full of an additional 20 photos, and it makes it hard to find the photo that you want. Just things like that. So typically what I will do, and when I'm on a vacation holiday like what we are doing today here, is I will go and shoot some photos, and then at the end of the day, or maybe at the end of the holiday, sometime, I don't wait too long. What I will do is I will go into my Photos app. I'm going to primarily show you on my Mac, because most of the adjustments are on the Mac, but I do have my iPad and iPhone here, so I can show you how some of this works on the iPhone as well. But we're going to go to my Mac here. And if we look here, you're going to see that the way that I take my photos is I'm looking at my library here. So if we look here, you're going to see, turn my Cursor Pro on here so you can highlight. There we go. Open system. Yeah. Yep. Sorry about that. I had to run this in Ventura because my photos library wouldn't work unless I upgraded everything to Ventura. So anyway, so there we are. We're good. All right. So I'm looking at my library here, and typically what I will do is I will go to my photos. I'm going to go to the end here. So I have these photos here of the resort. And as you can see, I took quite a few of them. What I will do, very simple, but it really works. I've been doing this for years, is I will just go through and using the arrow keys. I hope that's not blurry to you, but
It is,
you'll get the idea.
unfortunately.
Okay. Not sure why, but it's a photo of the resort. And as you can see, even though it's a little blurry, you know, they're all roughly the same. So essentially, I just use my arrow keys. And what I will do, if I find a photo that I want to keep, I'll just go up to the heart here, or I can use the period key, and I just tap it, and I know I want to keep that photo. So basically what I do is I just kind of whittle these down. Oh, that one looks kind of cool. So I'll period key and I'll favorite it. Nope, that one's no good. That one's no good. That one's all right. And sometimes I need to compare. If you look at the horizon line there, I know it's blurry, but if you look at the horizon line, it is a little, you know, I have to decide, do I want the top of the tree, or do I want, you know, more of the land kind of thing? So I just kind of flip through them, and I'm going to go with that one there. So I just favorite that one. And now that one's way off. So what I could do is actually keep this one. So now I'm keeping both of those, and I'm going to get rid of this one. So I'm not going to favorite that. And I just kind of go through these like that. So I like this one here. And it gives me an additional bonus of being able to select these photos, because now all I need to do is just go over to my favorites here. And all I see are my favorite photos. I'd like to know why that is blurry. Let me try that. Not sure why. I wonder if it's something with Ventura.
Turn it off again and on again.
Yeah, I mean, that one's now clear. It's slowly coming through. Okay. So basically now what I'm able to do, instead of looking at 20 photos, I've got this whittled down to possibly 10 or 8 or whatever. On top of that, if I wanted to share any one of these, you know, I can go to, if I was in Facebook, I would be able to select my favorites photo, and I'd be able to choose just from these photos instead of looking at all of these photos. So it makes it a lot easier to whittle down. And eventually what happens is my favorite photos are where I find all of the photos that I like to share, or if I'm going to show off or anything like that. It's just one giant favorite album, but I can easily just go through here, and I know I'm not going to find much of my junk photos. Another thing you can do then, and I'll talk a little bit about this when we talk about smart libraries or smart albums, what you can do then is create a smart album for all of the ones that are unfavorited and quickly delete those. You no longer, I know where my favorites are. Well, I can see that we have a heart here, so I know that one's favorited. This one is not, so I could just go through here and delete it, or I can create a smart album and just delete it. And it helps keep my library at a manageable, you know, 30,000 photos. If I didn't do this process or a similar process, basically it's called accept and reject. I'm just using the favorite to accept them. And they're rejected if they're not favorited. But basically what this does is this just allows me to keep my photos at a manageable thing. Otherwise, I'd have 60,000 or 100,000, and I'd have to purchase more storage for photos that I don't want to keep. And this also works for videos. When I am talking about anything with the Photos app, for the most part, I might not mention videos, but it does work for videos too. So we can favorite our videos and all that as well. So, you know, essentially, that's how I like to keep them managed. So now I know I can just go into here. And now if I want to create an album for these, let's say I'm going to create an album for my holiday down in Key West, what I'm able to do is just go to my favorites. I can select these photos here and add them to a new album. So I can just go here, add new album. And now I have just my favorite photos in a new album for Key West. So it makes it really easy to manage your photos. So that's probably the first thing that I like to mention of how I do it. And I think it works pretty good. I've been doing this for years, and it seems to be, my photo still seems to be, with 30,000 photos, it still seems to be pretty manageable. I can find a photo in there relatively quick, just based on, I don't have any junk photos for the most part. All right. Next thing, we want to do is we want to make sure that we sync our photos and videos. And the reason why we want to sync them is because we can use that same process on our iPhone or even our iPad. So if I'm just sitting around on the couch, like tonight, I could be, we get home, come back to our resort, and I can just grab my iPad or my iPhone and go through my photos. I actually love going through the photos on the iPad because it's nice and big. I have my readers here. I can see, get the detail. Oh, is that just a little bit blurry? Is it not? I really can't tell on the iPhone sometimes, but on the iPad, I can actually see that. And then I can use that same method of favoriting photos on the iPad. And of course, it translates to all of my different devices automatically. So anything that I favorite on the Mac is going to be favored on the iPad and vice versa. The other thing that we have with that is when we are talking about our photos here, what we can do when we go to iCloud here is we can download the originals to the Mac. Now, you can see I have this off, and I actually have it off on my main computer too. The reason is my photos actually add up to 300 gigabytes worth of photos. 30,000 photos roughly comes out to 30 gigabytes with videos and things like that. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, but that's typically, how it works. So if I download this to my Mac, I have a 1 terabyte drive, which sounds like a lot, but I also have to keep all of my videos that I produce on here. It can eat up space a lot. So what I will do is I will turn this off. And then what it does is when my computer is connected to the network, it'll download a low-res copy of my photo to my Mac. And the low-res copy still looks great, but it's not going to take up any space. And the beauty of it is if I go and edit that photo, maybe I go and crop it using rule of thirds or anything like that, any edits that I make to that photo or video, what it will do is it will upload that back into the cloud, and it'll apply all those changes to all of my devices. So essentially even though it's stored in the cloud, as long as I have a good internet connection, I'm able to make edits to the original. And just keep hitting the microphone. It keeps, it'll download the original, and then it'll upload it, any changes that you make. So on the iPad, the way that this works is we go to our settings, and this is how it's going to work on the iPhone as well. Go to our settings, and if you go to photos, I always have a hard time finding, so I go to photos here, you're going to see download and keep originals. So what I would do is I would turn that to optimize iPad storage. That's just like on the Mac where we download the original. Let's turn that off. I wish they used the same terminology, but they don't. But essentially, when you optimize the iPad storage, any photo that I edit or take with the iPad, it'll upload the high-res version into the cloud. I'll keep the low-res version, and then it will, any changes will be made to the original. Again, once I have an internet connection. The disadvantage to that, and really it's probably the main disadvantage, is if you don't have an internet connection, you're not going to be able to make any edits. But of course, with the iPhone, you, for the most part, have an internet connection, and the way things are these days, it's pretty simple to get one. The big advantage of it is on my personal library, I said it's about 300 gig. If I go to my personal phone, which I'm using as a webcam, so I can't pull it up, but I believe the library is about 30 gigabyte. It's dramatically smaller than what it is for the original. So that's why I like to use that. And I've been using it for a couple of years, and I have not had a single issue with it, with even all of my photos and videos. It's really, really worked well for me. So You want to make sure that you turn syncing on. If you have the space, absolutely, keep download the originals. That would be the best case. But, with photos and videos taking up so much space these days, and a lot of times we don't buy a 2 terabyte drive or a 4 terabyte drive or the 512 gigabyte iPad or the 1 terabyte iPhone. It gets really expensive. Well, this is a way that you can offset that cost by just storing it into the cloud. So. All right. Now let's start looking at some of the nitty gritty here. And Mike, I do not have the chat open. So if you see a question in the chat, let me see if I may open that up here. Where's my chat? Well, if you see a question in the chat, just let me know, interrupt me and let me know. So, all right. Let's go take a look at how we change the order. Now we can only do this on the Mac, I believe. I'm going to show you on the Mac. Looking on my iPad to see if we can do it. Shared albums. Time. Okay. So let's say you wanted to change the sort order of your photos. When we go over to our library, and our library is where everything is. This is where all of our photos and videos are, unless they are hidden. Any photos and videos that are hidden will not show up in the library. They only show up in your hidden album here. So basically, let's just say your library is all of your photos, your favorite photos, your not favorite photos, everything is in there. And the way that it adds these photos in there is in chronological order by when they were taken. So the latest photos are at the bottom here. This is the last photo I took about a half hour ago. And here's the first one back in 2019 when we were in Durango. So it just goes in chronological order. If you look under view here, you're going to see sort. But when we go over to the right, we can't sort them. So how do we sort these photos? The only way that you can sort these photos is when you are in an album. So really, this should be probably grayed out right now because I'm not in an album. I'm in the library, not in an album. If I go to an album, so here are all my albums here. Let's go over to Durango. So now I'm looking at all of my photos here. If we go back up under view, what you're going to see is sort. And now I'm able to sort them by the title, by the oldest, or by the newest. And I believe I can even change the sort order manually. So I can drag these around and place them how I want. So you do not have to, keep it in a specific sort order. The only trick is you do have to put them into an album. So if you have a birthday party, maybe you want to change the order of how the events went or the photos went. You can do that as long as they're in an album. If they're not in an album, you can't do that. Library is always in a specific order, like chronological by when they were taken. All right. Got some noise going on over here. All right. Now let's talk about smart albums. Smart albums can help you find specific photos. And I'll talk about this in a little bit when we talk about titles, captions, and keywords and things like that. Basically, with a smart album, what we are able to do is create what I call a dynamic album. With a typical album, what we need to do is add those photos, videos into that album manually. And we can do that at any time. We can drag and drop to place a photo. I have this album here. If I wanted to put this in there, I can drag and drop and put it in there. But I have to do it. With a smart album, what it does is it adds a photo or a video to that album automatically based on specific criteria. This could be what camera it was taken with. So you could create a smart album that says, I should be looking at my Mac. I want to show me create an album that has all of my photos taken with an iPhone. Show me all of my photos that were taken with an iPhone 13. Show me all of my photos that do not have a title. Show me all of my photos that do not have a location. And then what I'm able to do is add a location to those photos. So that's, it's dynamically generated. Photos and videos are added to it and removed from it automatically. If I go and add a location to a photo, it'll be removed from that album that says, show me all of my photos that do not have a location. So it's dynamic. In order to create, and we can only create smart albums on the Mac, we cannot create smart albums on the iPad and iPhone. And before I show you how, Apple already has some smart albums. This favorites, that's a smart album. Basically, as you favorite photos and videos, it's added to this album. If you unfavorite, it takes it out of that album. So this is a smart album in itself. We go over to our media devices. This videos, that's a smart album. It shows me all of my videos and only my videos. I add a new video, I don't have to add it to this album. Apple does that for me automatically. So that's what a smart album is. To create them, it's really quite simple and quite powerful. What we do is we go up to File, and then you're going to see New Smart Album. And essentially, all we have to do is just name it. So let's just go with photos that do not have a location. We'll just go with that one. So no location. Okay. Now, the next thing is we have to set that criteria. We set the name, but we have to set that criteria. So we go over here to Photo, and what I would do is not, and we should have location in here somewhere. Oh, tagged is not tagged with GPS. So now what this is going to do is show me 100 photos. That's how many I have that do not have a location with them. It's not tagged to GPS. So I just click on OK. And when we go to my albums, there it is. And these are all my photos that do not have a location. We can take those albums even a step further. I can click on it, and then we go to edit it. And you're going to see I can add, I click on the little plus over here, I can add more criteria. So we can really fine tune this. I want to have all of the photos that were not tagged with GPS in the last year. So I just go date captured, not the date that was added. That's the date added to photos. I want to be when it was captured is in the last 1 year. Now what it's going to do is show me all of the photos. So I have 2 photos here that do not have GPS, and they were taken in the last year. So basically 98 of my photos were taken over a year ago. So when I go to is not in the last year, this should show 98. So we can see how that's working. Last thing with these is we have match. We can have it match all of our filters, all of our criteria, or any of them. So right now, this is kind of what they call an either or. Right now, it is doing, an and or. Right now, it is doing an and. It has to match this one, and it has to match this one, which is why it's down to 98 photos. If we go to any, this is what they call an or. So now the photo is not tagged with GPS, or it is not captured in the last 30 years. Oops. But anyway, 320 items match. So it doesn't have to match both of them. It has to match either one of them. So when you create a smart filter, you need to pay attention to what you're doing here. It's very critical in multiple criteria. Are you trying to find the photos and videos of any of your specific criteria or all of them? By default, it goes to all, and that's typically how we will use it. So here I can say in the last, not in the last 1 year, 98, we'll go in the last 1 year. And that's what I want. I want both of those. So I can also go to, we're going to create a smart folder for my next topic. Adding title, keywords, captions to photos and videos. And the reason why I'm going to create a smart album is because I want to find all of my photos that do not have a title, do not have a caption. So then I'm able to see which ones I need to add a caption to or add a title to. Now, before I do that, what is the difference between a title and caption? Actually, not a whole lot, but in the Apple world, there is. On the Mac, when I'm looking at my photos here, what I'm able to do is show titles. You can't really read that. Sorry, it's blurry, but that's what that says there. And if we look at my photos here, you can see that there is text underneath them. That is my title. So the title on the Mac will show below the photo if we wanted to. Now on the iPad and iPhone, go to my iPad here. Doesn't work that way, of course. Apple can't be that good, can they? If I go and look at a photo here and I go to the eye where I can view all the metadata, that's what this is called. What you're going to see is caption, not the title. So I can add a title and it'll show up on the Mac. I can add a caption, it'll show up on the iPad and iPhone. So essentially, if you want to have it show up on everything, you really need to put it in both. The good news is what you can do is create a smart album for the title and caption, and then it'll show you all those photos that that have a specific title or have a specific caption. So you can do that, but unfortunately, like I say, the Apple and their infinite wisdom, I thought maybe Ventura would fix it with iPad OS 16, but it didn't seem to fix it. So titles typically work on the Mac, although we can add it. Let's go over to my Mac, and I'm going to look at a photo here. So essentially, I'll show you how I did that. If I select a photo and I go up to the eye here, what you're going to see is a window. This is a window that's opening up here. And at the very top, again, there it is, add a title. If I zoom in, you can see it. Below that, we have add a caption. And then we also have add a keyword. So we can also add keywords. Keywords do not, we cannot do anything with keywords on the iPad and iPhone. So we're finding now that the Mac is really the best way to edit our photos, although we can do a lot on the iPad and iPhone, and you'll see this when we talk about adjustments, but typically the Mac is where you want to do a lot of this stuff. So I can go and add a title in here. I just click on it and I can say this is Key West. And I can go and add a caption in here and do the same thing, Key West. So now we can see that it's a little blurry, but there's Key West there. Hopefully you'll be able to kind of get that. And when I go to my iPad, I don't know, I don't have it connected to the network. So I'll connect that here a minute and I'll let it sync. But basically on the iPad, it would show up when I go and tap on the eye, it'll show up as a keyword. I'm sorry, as a caption. So unfortunately, it doesn't, I don't know why Apple doesn't allow that connected up to the network here on my iPad. With keywords. Now, keywords work a little bit different. It's not used too often. I think it was something that was used in the past a little bit more. I tried it a little bit. It's something that you really have to work at. But what we are able to do with keywords, let's go put my title in there. So we're talking about keywords here. If we go up to window here, you're going to see that we have keyword manager. And when I select this, what I'm able to do is add keywords in here. And I can add my own. I just click on edit here and I can add my own keywords in here. So you could add it for people, although we'll talk about people here shortly. You can see I have here 5 stars. This is a way that you could do accept and reject. You know, maybe you don't want to use the favorite. Well, create a keyword that says accept and create another keyword that says reject. And then you're able to go through your photos and accept the ones you want, create a smart folder for your accepted photos or with that keyword. And let's go and do that. So I'm going to go accept and reject. Now with accept and reject, what I'd like to do is use a keyboard shortcut for that. We want to zip through these, right? We go on holiday, we're going through 50 photos. I don't want to have to sit there and click and tap and click and tap and click and tap and click and tap. So if we go over to the right of accept here, what we can do is we can create a keyboard shortcut. So I just double clicked on that. I'm just going to go with Control A, if it'll allow me, or Control Option A. There we go, Option A. So I went with Option A, and with reject, Option R. No, didn't do it. Maybe I just have to go R. Okay, just A. So now A and R are my two keyboard shortcuts. So now what I'm able to do is go through these, and I want to accept that. I can use the keyboard shortcut to accept it. And if I want to reject it, I can use the keyboard shortcut, or what I can do is go to my keyword manager here, and when there they are, accept, that one's accepted. I go to the next one. Try this, there we go. This one I can reject, go to the next one, accept, go to the next one, accept. And all I'm doing is just clicking on accept or reject, or I could use a keyboard shortcut. And now when I go to my new smart album, I'm going to go accepted photos. And the keyword is accept. Now, there are my accepted photos. And if I wanted to reject, like, that one's not that good, I'm going to reject that one. Go to my keyword manager, I reject it. And now we can see that that photo is no longer in there. So we can also use keywords, and this is a nice way of doing it, but the problem with this, you will have more fine tuned, like you could customize the way that you want. But the only problem with this is it doesn't work on the iPad and iPhone. So that's why I like to use the favorites, because you can use it on all the devices. But if you wanted to, you could fine tune. If you have a different way of accepting and rejecting, you can set it up this way as well with keywords. I think keywords are primarily used for like location and everything else, but for the most part, Apple is getting really good, along with Google, where they will look at your photos and figure out landmarks and faces and location with the geotag, as well as animals. And all you have to do is just go up to search here. And if I go and search for Key West, it pulls up all of my photos with Key West. If I go and search for Disney, here's all my photos for Disney. We have places, memories, different albums here, and then just our individual photos. And if we look over here to the upper right-hand corner, I have here these top 4 are location-based, while the bottom one here looks like it's a memory. So it can even tell you what exactly you're looking at and how many photos and videos are in each one. So the keywords, I think, was something that was reliant. We relied on a little bit in the past, not so much in the future, as we're going forward. But it is still there, and it is only available on the Mac. Does anyone have any questions before?
Yeah.
Sorry, is that Frank?
I got a question for you.
Go for it.
2 questions, actually. One, didn't Apple have a big, long list of keywords as a default? Did that go away?
They might have in the past, but they probably got away from that just because of because of they're doing everything with machine learning now, or machine learning, AI. So
Okay, just want to know. And then second, what is the difference?
in fact, they used to have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 star system in there. I don't know if you remember that.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
What's the difference between a title and a caption? I mean, what is the in essence difference?
Okay, so with titles, well, with any of this, what this is called is metadata. So I'm going to go to this photo here and we'll look at the metadata. When you are looking at a photo, when you take a photo with a camera, any camera, what it does is it adds metadata in there. And this is everything from the camera, what lens it was taken with. You can see this was taken with a 26 at an f-stop of 1.6. So all that is the metadata. So all it is just another tag. So the metadata, if I were to open up the raw file, not the RAW, but like if I could open up the metadata side of this photo, it would probably say title and then whatever I put in there. And then it would be the next line, like a P list or anything, it would be caption and then whatever the caption is. So I don't think there is any difference outside of, how it is used. Some apps now, Apple, in their infinite wisdom, titles are used on the Mac and captions are used on the iPad. Some software, and I looked, I thought maybe with when you create a slideshow in the Photos app, maybe it would use the captions, because that's what I think of captions as, kind of overlays the bottom of it, telling you what it is. And they didn't do that. So I think it's up to the software developer. They can pull that data and use it how they want. So that's the only answer I have. I don't know what technically it's just another tag, but
no, you just gave me a good idea for the Keynote stuff. You should be able to make the caption slide 15 or slide 18. Okay.
Should.
And then the title is going to be important to know what that is differently. So, okay, that works.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see I created where is it here? No, favorite photos. If you go and create it, because it's the only project you can make now in the Photos app is slideshows. All the ones you have to get a third-party app. But essentially, if I go and add photos in here, just go with a few of these, add them. I don't think, there they are. Yeah, see, it's not adding the captions. There's no options for the captions in there. And I thought for sure that that's where I'd be able to see them, but it just doesn't do it, which is kind of a little bit of a bummer because I think that would be great. If you were to caption, it sure would be nice to put that into the slideshow. So I don't know if Keynote would do any better. My guess, I'm a little leery. So,
well, maybe, but I thought Apple does that on the iPad, like automatically. If we're out of our location, we went to Italy last couple of years ago, and every city we went to and took photos of, it was a slideshow played sometimes when you didn't want it to.
And they do, that's their memories or featured. Yep, that is absolutely. Yeah. So essentially let's jump ahead here and I'll talk about location, then we'll go back to faces. So here we'll talk about locations. So locations, since we're pretty much all of us, including Mike, is using his iPhone for pretty much, when he goes on holiday, that's what he uses. Right. I mean, it's not a DSLR replacement, but it's pretty darn good. And it's the camera you have with you and it adds geotagging to it. Most DSLR have not caught up with that. As far as I know, you still have to buy a separate attachment or, you buy an older camera and it doesn't capture that location data in there, but an iPhone does. So what you are able to do is just go over to places here and there's all my photos. And when you zoom in, you can actually see all the different places. So I can see I like Disney here. And there's all the photos from Disney. This is actually my favorite way to search for photos. My brother told me about this actually, because they took this away. Apple took this away for a few years, a while back. And he's like, that's how I find my photos, is by location. That's how he remembers and I thought that's how I do it too. I mean, to me, it's like, right. God, I don't remember when we were there, but I remember where we were. So this is a great way of finding photos, is through that location. Now, let's say you go to Italy and you didn't take your photos with that digital SLR. I mean, with the iPhone. So it doesn't have any location data in there. It's not going to show up on this map. So you want to include those photos as well. So I'm going to go back over to my smart album that I created with the no location. Oops, looks like I need to change it here. Date captured, we'll take that one out. All right. Photo is not tagged with GPS. There they are. So some of these are taken with an older camera that didn't have GPS. These are older photos. So what I would like to do is, tag these. So here is Beth and I ziplining, and this is over in Pigeon Forge. So National Forest here in the States. So what I need to do is I need to add a location to these. Well, the first thing, I could drill down and actually assign a specific location to these. But, these were kind of taken all over Pigeon Forge. So what I'm just going to do is select all of them and add the place of Pigeon Forge. So all I have to do is just select them. So now I have them selected. And then when we go up to our eye here, what we're able to do is assign a location. So now all I have to do is just click in here, and I will go Pigeon Forge. And we can see it's pulling up the data. So I just click on it. Now all those photos are tagged with Pigeon Forge. And I don't know if you noticed it, but they are all removed. Why did they remove from this? Why are they no longer in this album? Because it's only showing me photos that have no location. So now if I go back over to my locations, places, this is where Pigeon Forge is. I wouldn't expect most of you to know that, but these photos, if I click on it, you're going to see that there are the photos of this ziplining. So now I'm able to, again, I don't know what year this was, but when I click on it, I'm able to easily see the year 2018. We went there twice. There's from 2000, there we were in 2014. So it shows me all of the photos in that were in Pigeon Forge at that time. So that's how you can add the location to these photos. Another thing that you may want to do, I didn't have this in my slide, but this is another good tip. If you use a digital SLR, a lot of times that the date will be off on the digital SLR. With the iPhone, we know it connects up to the internet and it keeps track of time zones, all that stuff. So we really, it's kind of like the set it and forget it. You're done, take a photo, it does everything for you. But with the digital SLR, a lot of it's all manual work, which is actually sometimes the fun behind it, not all the time. But one of the things that we may not do on a regular basis is set the time, especially when we change time zones. So now all of a sudden the times are wrong on our photos. So when we go into our library here, the dates could be off, times could be off, and it's not going to show up in chronological order by when they were taken. It's going to be all, messed up. So what you may want to do with photos that were taken with an SLR, digital SLR, or anything outside of an iPhone or smartphone, is go in there and change the dates. So that is really easy to do as well. You just select the photos. So I have these 5 photos here selected from Disney, and let's say the dates were off on them. Well, when I go up under image, you can see I have adjust date and time. I can also hide the location. We have a couple of location things in here, but we're going to look at adjust date and time. I select that. And now what I'm able to do is not only adjust the location, but I can also adjust the time. Let's say, well, no, it wasn't really 2021. It was 2019. I would type in here 2019, and all of those photos, that metadata for those photos and videos would be changed to 2019. So if your timing is off, your date is off, anything like that, and you can even go and adjust the, the location is the time zone. You want to use the I for the location and use the adjust date and time for your adjusting the date and time. And that little one comes up. And again, only on the Mac. This is not available on the iPad and iPhone. Don't worry, the iPad and iPhone do have their place in this whole ecosystem. But for the most part, stuff like this, the fine tuning of these photos and videos is primarily done on the Mac. The iPad and iPhone have not caught up yet. Let's talk about faces. What we can do with our photos is have it recognize faces. And Apple touts that it does this all on your device. So for the most part, or at least from what I understand, it's not going up into the cloud, and Apple's not doing this in their thing. This is all done on your device to make sure that everything's all done privately. So, and we can do this. This is something that is available on the Mac, iPad, and iPhone. So we don't have to be a Mac only. This is not a Mac only feature. So on my Mac here, you're going to see I have people. And when I go to people, I have Beth here. And now all I need to do, she's sitting across from me, probably rolling her eyes. But what I'm able to do is see all the photos that have Beth in them, and I can see the location. And being that it's recognizing her face, it's going through my photos, and what I'm able to do is confirm additional photos. So now I click on this and I say, yeah, that's Beth. All I have to do is just click yes or no. Sometimes it may pick her sister. She looks a lot like her aunt, so it may pick her aunt. So you have to go through and confirm. The more you confirm, the better photos gets. So it does get better and better, but surprisingly, it works pretty well. So now I just added that photo to her people album. Let's go and add mine. So what I'm going to do is go and find a photo of me. So here I am, and click on the eye. You're going to see that when I'm looking at my info, this is where we have our title and our location and the caption. But you're also going to see that, being that this has faces in it, it has a couple of circles there with the faces. So this one is of me, and when I click on it, you're going to see that it put a little ring around me there, and I already named this earlier, so it knows that I'm Dan. So what I want to do is I want to create an album, based on, I could even, if there was a third person in here, this is how you would create an album. I could just select a third person somewhere over here and name them, and it would kind of see the ring there. There it is. What it would do is it would create an album for that third person. So what I need to do here, being that, let's see here. So let's go with, say I want to view, go back, and I'm going to search for Dan, photos of Dan. There's all the photos of me. There's people, and there I am. And I want to add Dan to people. I'm going to confirm additional people. That additional me, there doesn't appear to be any more of me in there. So now when I go over to people here, there I am. I click on it, and I can see all the photos of myself and where they were taken. If you want to create a photo memory from that, you can do that. I want to feature myself less, I can do that. I can add myself to favorites. When I do that, what it does is it puts me up towards the top here. So your favorites are always going to be, if you were to look at my personal phone, I have all of my family, my siblings, a lot of my nieces and nephews, some close friends. I have albums for all of them. So, and they are always amazed when I'll be, could be our friend Jill, and I'll be like, it could be her birthday. And I'm like, let's take a look at some of the photos from Jill. And I've known Jill for a long time. All I do is go to her people album. I play a movie, and the iPhone takes care of it for me. It shows, and everyone's just like, how'd you do that? Where'd you get all those photos? Just the magic of Apple and photos, and putting it all together, and it makes it really easy to show off if you want to show off.
Dan, there's a question in chat from Ronald Aitchison. Would you care to ask your question, Ron? Hello?
Yes, some time ago, I copied iPhotos into a CD and later imported from that into Photos.
Mm-hmm.
They all became dated with the import date, not the dates that they were taken on do apparently exist in the metadata. Can you sort of pull it out in a smart album?
Yes. So the way that iPhoto worked is it created events for you automatically. I think that
Yeah,
was
pretty
a
well.
precursor to moments and collections. And what it would do is it would it's almost like a smart album. It was I would say it's a hybrid of it between a smart album and an album. What it would do is it would say, oh, these photos were all taken at the same time roughly. This must be an event, and it puts it in there and then it's done. So it's kind of like a smart album and then it shuts itself off. And when you import that into the Photos app, it kept all those events. And you would find them. I don't think I don't
Yeah, I
have,
think I
here
have
we go.
them somewhere.
Yeah, there's iPhoto events. So these were imported from iPhoto, these events here. So yeah, what you could do if you wanted to kind of recreate that is you would have to create smart albums. Now, the problem with smart albums, they're great, but smart albums do not show up. So I have here, I created that smart album for accepted photos, and let's go over to my iPad. The problem with that is smart albums, you're going to see that they are not on my iPad. So smart albums are great for, I like to use them for editing, for more of the major stuff that you can only do on the Mac. And then you'd have to, basically what you'd have to do is create a separate album here. Then you could drag all those into that album and it'll sort. Just make sure it's not in the smart album. So you could create a smart album to put them all together. Then, like with these here, what I would be able to do is take these and, oops, wrong. Okay, so I'm in my smart album here, and I could take these and move them into an album, and then that album would sync. So it's a two-step process, but that's a way you can get around that. If you do that, so with albums, you can create folders for albums. You're going to see that I do have folders here. So if you have a lot of photos, like, a perfect example is iPhoto events, you could end up with a lot of events, which is fine. That's great. But you don't have to have this long list of events. What you can do is just go up under File here, and you can create a new folder. And then when you create that folder, you can put an album into that folder. So this could be family photos, and then create a bunch of albums within that family folder. Say that 5 times fast. And these folders do show up on the iPad and iPhone. You're going to see that I have edits here. This is a folder. And Disney trips, that's a folder. So you can, I believe you can even, can you create a folder on new album? No. So folders, I thought you could create a new folder on the, that doesn't look like it. Thought for sure that you could. It's a little, I believe that you can. I just don't know off the top of my head.
Would that be in the little eye?
There we are.
Yeah. Oh.
New folder. So tap on all albums, then go to the plus, and then go to new folder. And then what you're able to do is put albums into that folder. Does that help?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Let's get into some of the fun stuff, editing, which I call the fun stuff. And first thing we're going to talk about is rule of thirds. And this is more of a photography. I'm sure a lot of you know about this. For those of you who don't, the rule of thirds, it's an old, it's been around forever. And essentially what you do when, we're going to look at this on my Mac, when you are looking at, when you take a photo, really you want to use this for when you take a photo, but you can also use it for cropping. So I'm going to use it in the cropping. So, this would be a post edit, but you can, when you have the camera out, you can also line up your camera and use the rule of thirds. Essentially, let's take a look at, okay. So we're going to look at 3 photos here that I took, and it's getting more blurry. Great. So if we look here, you're going to see that this is looking at outside our balcony. There's the Atlantic Ocean there. And I have the row of buildings here. And if I go to the next one, the row of buildings is here. And if I go into the next one, it's kind of in the center. So the question is, which one of these is better? And it all depends on what you're trying to capture. But in most cases, what you don't want to do is center something. When you center something, like if you take a picture of, let's see if I have another one here. If you take a picture of, let's go with, should have organized these a little bit better. Because there's a lot of center pictures there. Okay, here we go. So this is back at where I live in Michigan. This is our state park. And if we look at this, you're going to have a tree here and a tree here. We have the horizon, you know, right about here. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm dividing when I took this photo in my mind, and actually you can show this on the camera, you'll show a tic-tac-toe board. Everyone remembers the game tic-tac-toe. That's basically what we're showing. Or I guess for the younger kids, it's a hashtag that's not italicized. But essentially, if we go to the edit here and I go to crop, what we are going to see, let's see here, where is, I need to show my view image. I thought for sure I'd be able to see, but essentially what, Mike, do you know if, I thought for sure we'd be able to see the grid.
Never use it.
Okay. Sorry. But essentially, so just picture mentally wise, you know, when I took this, I lined up this tree, it's a third, and then a third. And that's essentially what you want to do when you take a photo, particularly with landscape and with people. So if I go back to this photo here, you know, I can see that that's a third. And then this is a third. And what this does is this puts the subject right now, you know, this is more or less the subject is the buildings. So what I'm able to do is say, hey, look at how beautiful this is. This is where we stayed for the week, you know, kind of thing. And if I wanted to talk about the grounds, what I can do is go to the other one. So now I'm on this third. So it kind of balances it out. Another thing you can do with it is horizon. So you're going to see that my horizon here is on the lower third. So what I'm trying to do is get a picture of the sky. It's really not that great because it's, you know, it's nice. This is nice with clouds. You want to get a picture of the clouds and all that. What you would do is you would place the horizon at the bottom third. And if you want to get a picture of the grounds, like what I would want to do here, because the, you know, the sky is just so nice and blue here. You know, I put that at the top third. So you can see I'm following just that tic-tac-toe board. And what you can do when you edit these, so here is, yeah, this one, we'll go with that one. So here my horizon is in the center. And this is pretty subjective. You know, this is up to the person viewing the photo. You know, everyone has a different taste on this. But basically, let's say I wanted to highlight the grounds here a little bit. What I can do is go into edit, and then I go to crop, and there's my rule of thirds. You can kind of see it there. Sorry again that it's blurry, but I can move that. So now that tic-tac-toe board is right on the ocean there. And when I let go, now we have my new photo where it's cropped and kind of showing the photo a little bit more with the rule of thirds. When you, a good way of looking at this is take a look at any famous painting for the most part, especially if it's landscape. You will never see, hardly ever will you see a painter where they will paint the horizon in the middle of the photo. They will always, the horizon will be in the lower third or the higher third. Also, when you look at portraits, paintings, what they will do is they will have two people and the thirds side there. So like with Beth and I here, this is one third, this is the other third. I didn't take it too far away, that's a selfie, and I didn't take it too close. The whole idea is to getting it right at that. If I go and edit this and we go to crop, it probably will be pretty good. Yeah, you can see that. I was following that rule of thirds when I took that. So that's typically what you want to do. And you can do this. It's easier if you do it when you take the photo. Here's another one. I'm following that rule of thirds. This is the peak. And if we look, I go to crop it. You're going to see that I'm following that rule of thirds there again. And it gives a nice balance to what most people would probably do with this. And it's not a bad way to go, but what most people would do is something along that line. Now, let's keep it the same aspect ratio. Original. So what most people would do is go like that, and then I need to, and that's not bad, but I think it really shines when you see it like that with the ocean there and all that. And I'm just using the rule of thirds again. Now, if I really wanted to get good with it, I'm going to keep it original. What I could do is move now this rule of, so we have the third here and the third here. And then, so we have the ocean over here. The main, dock going out there. And then the close up over here, all using that rule of thirds. Now it's a little too tall. So what I would have to do is go in here and crop it again. And there we go. That's good. So now we can see this is 1/3, this is another third, and everything kind of just balances out. So typically what you want to do when you take photos, and it's a little bit of work, but if I looking at my iPad here, you'll see that this one, again, rule of thirds. How is this following the rule of thirds? Crop. Original. We're going to look at this. We can see that the Ferris wheel circle is right on that line. And we have this cart right down here. So just a nice little line there with this filling up the whole thing there. So rule of thirds can really gives it a nice little breathing room there. It can really balance things out. If we look at this, let's go to crop and original. A little bit off there, probably could keep his eyes right there. So now I go like that, but see, it's too long of a, horse has too long of a face, but that would probably be a better, but again, it doesn't work for every photo, and it's up, it's up to the person. Some photos will look better. This one's centered. Looks great. That's a tulip, and it just looks great centered. So I'm not really using any rule of thirds there. But that typically what you want to do. And when you, let's go over to my iPad here. I'll show you, let's see here. No, I'll go to the iPhone because most of us take photos on our iPhone. This is what I would recommend doing. Hopefully my iPhone will show up here. All right. If you go to your settings and you go to your camera settings here, what you want to do is you're going to see grid here. Make sure that that is turned on. Then when I go to the camera, you're going to see, you can actually see just a faint that board there, tic-tac-toe board. So what I'm able to do is, center things. So if I wanted to take a picture of my two computers here, what I would do, you can see what I'm doing. I'm lining up that third and a third, and I would take that photo. And now that photo is pretty well balanced as opposed to that or that, just kind of using those rule of thirds kind of gives us a nice balance. So
Dan,
there's a lot of information on it. You can look that up, but yes.
you might want to think about, for me, the rule of thirds was best explained by Ansel Adams in his book. You can get a book of Ansel Adams, and he will show you with his photographs in that
Yeah.
book he does, which is very, very excellent.
I forgot about that. Yes, I was just going to say, you know, Google rule of thirds. It's and Ansel Adams. Yes, it's been a long time since. So thank you. And you look at any of his photos, he's
Oh, yeah.
following the rule of thirds. You know, and his photos are beautiful. You know, so thank you.
Mhm.
All right, let's look at viewing the histogram of a photo. So this is when we get into the editing side of it. And with the histogram, what we're able to do, and Mike, jump in if I get a few things wrong here, but with the histogram, what we are able to do is view basically the information that the camera captured. And unfortunately, I hope I was hoping that it's not going to be blurry here. Okay, so this is in the Dominican Republic. Sorry that it's blurry. Let me see if I can straighten that up. No, but you're going to see that I have some bright lights here. The sun, this is a sunrise, and it's very dark over here. With a histogram, what we're able to do is kind of see all of that information in a graph per se. So when I go up to edit here, you're going to see I have histogram. Now you do have to turn this on. And in order to turn it on, you just go up under image and is it under edit? View. Sorry, it's under view. Histogram. So essentially what I'm looking at here is the information in the photo. So we can see we have a lot of information here at the beginning and not a lot of information here, except for at the very end, it spikes up. You can see that little red mark. What is this telling us? And there's no detail here. Well, that's basically what it's telling us is how much detail this photo has in a specific color range. And so when we're looking at this red here, that is basically this white, the sunrise. And all of the dark here, if I got this right, let's see here. Let's go to my curves here. I'll talk about curves here shortly. I got that right. Okay. Let me close this up here so we can see. All right, so the histogram is basically telling us where all of that, you know, I have a lot of detail here in the shadows, but I can't see it. I do not have any detail. There's not a lot of detail in the sunrise. It's basically yellow light, you know, kind of thing. There's actually chairs in here that you can't see. So that histogram, what you want to do is you kind of want to get in this photo, it actually works out all right. But in other photos, you want to kind of get a balance. If you use Halid as a camera, which Mike is familiar with, you can view the histogram as you're taking the photo. So then what you're able to do is see if you have a good balance of light and dark. This photo here, we can see that I can actually bring up the contrast here. There's no information down here. So this is wasted space. There's no information right here. So if I were to close that up a little bit, what I might be able to do is bring out this detail here a little bit. There's absolutely no detail here at the end. That graph is gone. So I'm wasting that. So essentially what you do is you can pinch that in just a little bit. And then what you're able to do is accentuate the detail here. And the way that we do that is through curves. You're going to see that my histogram looks very similar to my curves. You know, just a little bit different, but for the most part, that's how it, you know, there's my curves. So how do I pinch this up or squeeze this in a little bit? Well, first of all, let's take a look at this little tool here. When we're looking at our curves, typically I'll look at it as an RGB. This gets a little bit, you can specifically go with a color. That's where you can really mess things up. But you're going to see we have this little crosshairs here. And when I click on that and I zoom around the photo here, watch what happens at this point here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. But what I'm going to do is just move my cursor. You can see there's a little dot there moving. And as I move my dot around or move my cursor around, it's telling me where it's picking that up. So the shadows are down in the lower left-hand corner. I'm down in the shadows of the pyramid there. And when I go to the whites, you can see it goes up to the upper right-hand corner. But you'll also notice that when I go to the whitest white, that dot doesn't go any higher than that. So that is the wasted space. Anything above that, I'm wasting. So what I would want to do is I would want to take this and move it over. Actually, here, let's reset it. Anytime you make a change here, you can always go to reset here. So what I can do is I can take this. I'm just going to do a real simple. You take this and you move it. And if we look at the histogram up at the top, you're going to see it's moving over. I don't want to move it all the way over. Now I'm going to start losing detail. That's not what I want to do. So I move it just where it starts going there. And it starts going there. So basically what I was able to do is pull a little bit more detail there. I can do the same thing in the shadows. Again, there's nothing, the darkest it gets is right down here. And when I go back to that little eyedropper tool, it doesn't get any darker than that. So I go over here and I drag this up. I'll talk about how we can make it a curve here shortly. But
Ooh,
let's see here. Yeah,
nice and
that's
clear.
curves can really, so there we go. And now look at that histogram up at the top. It's pulling it back. But now I'm starting to have detail there. We can see that. You can't see it, but that's a little bit darker. I have a little bit more definition in the clouds. Everything's just a little bit more. I'm pulling out that. I'm not creating any detail. I mean, I'm not adding anything. All I'm doing is removing information that is not there in the photo anyway. So it just kind of scrunches it up. It does basically, it's almost like it's adding more contrast, but you're doing it manually. So that's where the histogram and curves can come in. Now it can get a little tricky here. Let's go back over to, well, here, first of all, so that's, yeah, you can't really see it, but you can see it's a little more contrast there. This allows you to show the before and after when you do any edits. So let's go over to my other one here. We're going to go to this one and let's take a look at this. I'm going to go to my curves here and we go over to my little dot here and we can see there's not, let's see here, so let's go here and that's the white. That's not what I want. There it is. I have to scroll up a little bit. So come on. You're going to see, you can barely see it there, but I'm going to go extreme here, but now you can kind of see I have chairs here. All that was in the detail there, and I was able to pull that out by messing with these curves. But the problem with this now is it's washed out. So what you can do then, being that it's curves, you can create a curve here and bring that back in. So you can create an S curve in here, which is what some people will do. And now you can kind of start to see it there a little bit. It can really, like I say, I'm going extreme. You really want to do small adjustments when you do this. But there we can kind of start to see. There I'm blowing out the sun. So let's bring this down a little bit to get more detail. You can kind of see what it's doing there. No detail in the sun. Bring it back down. I'm getting more detail. And if I bring it over this way, it's not adding any more detail because there's not any detail there to add. So I will just go right about there. And now there's the original, which actually has a nice effect. I do like the silhouette effect. This is what I was trying to go for with it. But if you did want to get the detail out of it, and again, I'm going extreme here so you can see it because it's a little blurry, you can actually pull that detail out. All I did was just went to my curves here. You're also going to see that my histogram is really kind of messed up there. So I should make further adjustments here. There we go. There. That's a little better. Of course, you can't really see that, but that's how you can use curves to finely tune using the histogram, and just use that little eyedropper tool. The beauty of all this is you have an auto here. You can have photos automatically adjust the curves for you. So let's go ahead and do that. I can undo it. I click on the undo, it undoes it. Click on the auto, it'll try to do its best job. And then you can go and fine tune it so you can use photos as a starting point. On top of that, what you are able to do is turn this off temporarily. Click the blue check mark and it turns it off. So if you've made other adjustments, let's say you've adjusted the light and the color and made some other adjustments, and then you went and did the curves, and you want to see it without the curves. You can do that just by clicking on the blue circle here. So you can turn off individual edits if you want to see how it looks compared to them. When you're looking at these edits, you're going to see that I have light, color, black and white, retouch. Of course, you can't see that, but that's what these are. And if you click on the little caret here, we have these same things on the iPad and iPhone, but what we don't have on the iPad and iPhone are when we click on the caret, here's my brilliance, exposure, highlights, shadows. I have more detail. And what I'm able to do is fine tune these individually. I can go with the auto and we can see it made some adjustments here. And then I can go and fine tune those adjustments. So I can, again, use photos as my starting point for these adjustments and then, make further adjustments to it. So there's all kinds of different options here. Noise reduction. I can luminance noise, color noise, detail. By no means is this a Photoshop, but it's actually pretty good. And what you are now able to do is copy an edit here that you made and paste it to other photos if you wanted to. Of course, I don't really care to do that because I like to look at each photo individually. It's a little bit more work, but I think that's the proper way to do it. But you can copy and paste that if you're using macOS Ventura, and copy and paste any edits that you've made. Adjustments, I should say. Let's go with this one here. So if I go to edit here and we go auto, we can see it brightened it up just a little bit. I can turn that off. And if I go to my color here, I can adjust the color automatically. Didn't do much there. Did move it just a little bit. And that's the beauty of all this is it's really subtle. You want to make subtle adjustments, not drastic adjustments. And if we look here, you're going to see a lot of these are just subtle adjustments. There's nothing really drastic. 0.11, 0.18, nothing real big. And you can always go to the upper left-hand corner to view the original. The last thing, oh no, two things. The next thing I want to talk about is gray point. This is something I learned years ago, and I probably will not be able to explain it how I learned it, but we're going to try. Let me find my photo here that I want. And hopefully you'll be able to see it. It's not day one adjustments. And crop. No. Okay, we'll go with this one here. So this is a lizard here. And essentially the way that I was taught how color correction works is, like I say, with that curve, you don't really want to make an S curve out of it, or you really want to make subtle adjustments because the camera is capturing everything right. It's just all, it's not going to say, oh, there's a little too much red here, not enough red here. It kind of makes a more of a broad adjustment to it. And I learned this when scanning when I was in magazine publishing. Essentially what you want to do is You want to find if your color looks out of, doesn't look right, the color doesn't look, maybe it has a cast, a yellow cast, a green cast, a blue cast, you know, sometimes you see that based on the light, and it just doesn't look natural. The way that you can easily fix that is finding a gray spot on the photo. Could be a gray wall, it could be gray carpet, gray floor, anything, a gray cloud. Gray seems to be the neutral point, and essentially what happens is the way that I was taught was you have your tree trunk, which is the gray, and then all of your colors are all of the leaves. Well, what happens is that tree trunk starts going a little bit like this, so all of the colors just naturally lean over this way. So what you do is you find the gray, and what that gray does is it straightens that tree right back out, thereby pulling all of those colors, and all of a sudden everything is going to be correct. So you don't want to individually, like if something is a little bit blue, don't remove the blue. What you need to do is find the gray spot and tell the photo that that is the gray spot, and then everything will just be corrected. So it's not a matter of individually finding the color. It's a matter of balancing all of the colors. Right now it's just out of balance, so it looks like it's blue, but really it's not. So with this one here, this looks a little bit orange, and actually it's supposed to be orange, but you're going to see what I mean here when I go and balance the color. Let's just say that this was gray. You know, this lizard here is gray. So what I would like to do is I need to balance the color. Well, what I could do is go into my adjustments here, and I can go and adjust the colors via color here, or I could go to the curve and take some of the yellow out. But that is you're going to be it's going to be maddening. Let's just say that, especially when you know it can be this easy. Essentially, what you want to do is find it here. Definition, sharpen, noise. It's not selective color. Selective color does allow you to do what you want it to do. Curves. I know it's here. There it is. White balance. So what you want to do is you want to go to white balance, and you're going to see you have neutral gray. So now all I need to do is just click on this eyedropper, and I click on the part of the photo that is gray. So his eyelid here, and you might want to zoom in, but I'm just going to go with his eyelid here. His eyelid here is gray. Now watch what happens when I do that. I'm going to zoom out so we can see that. And you can see it automatically removed the color, but it's still, the color is still in balance. So let's go and go a little more extreme. We're going to go with this area here. Let's go with, see, as I'm clicking on different things, it's changing the color, but it's changing the color of the whole thing. So that actually looks pretty good. Again, it's blurry for you, but there it's orangish. And it's ever so subtle, but to me, that is probably more what that lizard was like. And all I had to do is find the gray spot of that photo. Let's see if I can find another one here. We'll go with, now this one here is a little yellow to me. So what I would want to do is, now maybe the sun was reflecting on it at that time, but I can go in here and just select a gray and look how that changed it. See if you can see the original. That's the new one. Nice blue sky, almost an unnatural blue. I might have not. Let's go and change it to, we're going to go with a little lighter gray. You really want to have a neutral gray. And when you've probably seen it when you go to anyone that's a photographer, they always have that gray strip. That's what they're doing, is they're trying to find that use that to match their color. And then it brings all the other colors in play here. So now we can see how dull that is in yellow. And all I did was I found a good spot for gray. And hopefully you'll be able to see that. I can see a little bit more green in the grass. It can bring all that balance, all of those colors back into balance just by going through and finding that gray spot. Again, that's a little unnatural, but you get the idea. It's really helpful when you have a heavy cast. Let's see here. Do I have anything with a heavy cast? And what I mean by cast is it just has a yellowish look to it or a bluish look to it. Yeah. Watch this one. This is how it's supposed to look, but let's have some fun so you can kind of see what this looks like. So I go to white balance, and I'm going to say that this Ferris wheel, you can see it just changed all the colors. Say the skies were a little bit gray, these clouds were gray. And it's not really it's not really throwing all of the other colors out of skew. Now the skies are a little bit more gray instead of blue, and all of the colors of the Ferris wheel still pop out there. And I'm not making any curve adjustments or anything like that. It's just finding that gray spot. So that's an easy thing to balance the color of your photos out. The last thing I want to mention or talk about is raw images, but I probably, just by the way that this thing's behaving, I probably won't be able to show you. Let's go with my iPad. iPad seems to be working a little bit better. You can shoot raw photos with the iPhone, and ProRAW is what they call it. And essentially with raw photos, it carries a lot more definition, a lot more detail in that photo. But also what it does is the photo is a lot larger. And the way that it works is every camera shoots raw, every camera. You could have your $59 instant digital camera, it shoots raw. But what it does is it sends it through its own processor and compresses it down into a JPEG. And when it compresses it down, what it does is it does its own little magic on it. And hopefully what you get is a good looking photo, a much smaller photo. But a raw photo is not necessarily good looking, but what it is it's full of detail, which is why it's so large. So what photographers will do is they will shoot in raw, and then they will go and edit it themselves in a photo like Lightroom or whatever, and then they will pull that detail out that is missing. So that it's more work, it's better, but it's more work. The photos are better, it takes up more space. The idea behind it is, well, I shouldn't say the idea. The thing that you want to be with raw photos is it's up to the camera at how well of a job it does. So we all know the iPhone does a fantastic job of post-processing. So when you look at a raw photo compared to a JPEG from a camera or an HEIC photo from the iPhone, they actually look pretty good. Although the raw photo does look a little softer, it looks a little nicer. When you look at a photo, if you were to pixel peep on a photo that's not raw, it's going to look a little sharp sometimes, things like that. But for generally speaking, it really does. The iPhone, their post-processing is truly magical. But if you go to a cheaper camera, that's that what you get is what you get, and you can't do anything. If it puts a yellow cast on it, that's a post-processing doing that, and there's nothing you can do about it outside of like a natural gray or something like that. But really, if you can get to it beforehand, that's what you want to do, and that's what a raw file is. It has virtually no processing. Now, with ProRAW, Apple kind of mixed the two together. So we have RAW, which is the raw file, no post-processing on it whatsoever. We have our JPEG, HEIC, that has all post-processing, no raw data. ProRAW is a combination of both of those. So Apple will do some of the post-processing. So their raw files actually look really, really good because it's doing a combination of both. But if you wanted to, you could go in and further make further adjustments to it because all that detail is there. So they're kind of bridging the gap between raw and just general JPEG, HEIC kind of files. So that's why ProRAWs, if you were to open up a DNG file, which is a raw file, it would look like crap because there's no post-processing. If you open up a ProRAW file, an Apple RAW file, it would look good because Apple does their own post-processing. But you can actually make it look better by going and making your own edits to it. So if I go to, I have And Apple has an album here, and there's, I told you that Apple has their own smart albums, and on the iPad, you can see that my smart albums don't show up, but theirs do. And you're going to see I have RAW here, and I can view all of my RAW photos. So this here is a RAW photo. And basically what I'm able to do with this is go through and edit it just like any other. Now, I don't have all of the adjustments that I did on the Mac, and I'm only showing you this on the iPad because it's not blurry. But essentially what this is going to be is a little softer than, let's see if I think I have, library didn't import those. Let me go to my iPhone here. And we're going to look at my photos here. Need to see which one is RAW, and we're going to pixel peep here. Pixel peep is when you really zoom in. So that, I got to find my RAW photo here. Wide camera. Okay, so here's RAW. Let's start at the beginning here. I just went and took these before this presentation. Raw. It's not what I want. Raw. You can see I'm seeing there HEIF and RAW. All right, so now we're able to see these are basically the same photo. I just took one in RAW and one in HEIF, so we can actually see the difference. And as you can see, there's really not a whole lot of difference there. But let's go ahead and close this. If we look here, zoom in, this is the regular file, HEIC or F, I get them mixed up. And then this is the RAW. You can see there's not a whole lot of difference there, especially when people are looking at it on an iPhone. So, it's pretty safe to shoot outside of RAW, but if you did, I can't really see it here. Mike showed it last week, really good. Let's see if my computer is working any better. Doesn't look like it. But what you'll see in a RAW file is it's just a little softer, not as sharp. You won't get the banding. Sometimes you'll see like just where there's a line, like a building where the rooftop is. You're just going to see a little halo above that when and that's all the post-processor doing that. Well, with the raw file, you won't have that because there's no post-processing. But you're going to have to go in and fix it yourself or go and make it look good yourself, which is part of the fun of it all too. So, and you can do that with the Photos app. Now, the Photos app does not have all of the RAW tools that like Lightroom has. And there's another one that I'm playing around with. I told Mike about this one. I haven't played around with it too much, but Darkroom Plus it works with the Photos app. It's available on the Mac, iPad, and iPhone. And what you can do is do further edits with it. It's more on the, a lot of iPhone photographers, professional iPhone photographers seem to be really liking Darkroom, and there's a subscription for Darkroom Plus that you can play around with. So I'm playing around with that for my RAW files. I have not seen too much of a difference with Photos app in RAW. So that's what I got. Any questions? Can't hear you, Mike, you're muted. There you go.
I realized I was muted. Sorry. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I didn't catch any other questions.
Okay.
A few questions about Affinity Photos, simply because Sue Clark asked about, does Photos offer a montage facility? The answer to which is no. So I've dealt with that. Do you think that the blurring you're experiencing is related to the photos being returned to thumbnails by optimization? No, it's not.
No,
it's not because
the blurring is due to me working remote. I'm confident in that because you've seen my stuff, Mike. It's generally pretty clear, and so I'm going to say I'm touting it to just I'm working remote. So sorry about that too. I didn't realize it would do that. So.
No, well, can't be helped. And it's your holiday, for goodness sake.
True. Mm-hmm.
No, thanks so much. I've been making notes, so I've learned stuff about smart filters that I've never used. makes no sense at all not to be using. And I thank you for that. And
You wanna know another little tip for you? This is, you use that Spectre app, right?
yes,
So Mike gave a presentation, a great presentation, got more into detail of what I did here. But he talked about how you can do and I thought about this, Mike, but I didn't want to throw that out. But are you familiar with live photos on
yes,
the iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay. So with live photo, you're not gonna, I can show you on the iPad. I don't know why my Mac is that way. But with live photos, I have this photo here. Basically, instead of using the Spectre app, what you can do is take a live photo of a waterfall. So this is a live photo of the waterfall, and then just go and turn it into a long exposure. And it blurs everything out.
fascinating.
The other
Yeah.
thing with these live photos are pretty powerful. For those of you, it's a balance between a little bit on the gimmicky side, but in all actuality, it's really pretty powerful stuff. So here's Beth. She's a Dutch dancer, and she is cooking up her wooden shoe. And what I wanted to do with this is get her when she's kicking her foot up. And, basically there's 3 ways that I could do that. I would have to time myself just right to where I hit the shutter when her foot is up. Well, that isn't going to happen. I could take a burst of photos. Burst of photos is great, but generally what you have to do at that point is you have to go back and delete all the other photos and this, that, and the other. Or what you can do is you can use a live photo, and what you're able to do is I edit it. I go to my live photo. I can choose what frame I want. So there it is. And I would make that my key photo. And now that is my key photo. Now I no longer want this to be a live photo. I just want this to be a photo. I just use the live photo option to get me to this point. I go to the very top and I tap on live. And now this photo is a photo for all intents and purposes. It is, I tap and hold. I can lift her up, like any other photo, as long as you use an iPad OS 16, but it's not a live photo. I mean, it's not
Brilliant. I had previously thought that was just a gimmick because I've found no use for it at all. But
Yes, no, it is. Yeah, it's and I'm still in the habit of a lot of my friends will have live photo on and they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. No, it's taking up extras. If you're not going to use it, turn it off.
Yeah.
But it does have its uses, and this is a perfect example. I mean, I just went and this is her. So basically, I just needed to get that photo, and I can just go and edit it, and then I just go up here and say off, and now that is my photo. So the live photos can come in pretty handy for stuff like that. This is Tequendama Falls, which is the largest waterfall west of Niagara Falls here in the States. It's up in our northern Michigan, the UP. So if that's what it is. And what's kind of cool with this is you can make it loop. So you have a little more options. So I can just sit here, and if you do it right, it's just a looping photo. So it's just kind of nice. Or long exposure. I don't like bounce, but there's that long exposure. Nice and wispy. So live photos can be pretty powerful too.
Brilliant.
All right, there's my
Thank
little
you so
tip.
much. I suspect it's time for, gosh, it is 9:15. Some of us will be going to bed in a minute.
I'm going to go out and have a pint of beer. What do you
Good.
call it? Lager?
Oh no,
What do you
lager.
call it? Lager.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to
that's
go out and have lager.
That's the one. Thank you so much. It's absolutely fascinating hour and a half. And yeah, notes. Folks, would you care to just unmute and thank Dan in your usual wonderful way for this presentation?
I thought it was marvelous. I've